Hello, everyone in podcast land. Welcome to this week's episode. Today, we're talking about the Pixel 7 event.
And we talk about Elon Musk finally agreeing to buy Twitter.
All right, on to topic number one. The Pixel 7 event just finished, like hot off the press. We finished watching it. So you're getting a pretty punctual review of the event, I guess. So from quite some time, for at least a few months, we knew what this event was going to be about. It was going to be about the Pixel 7, the 7 Pro, the Pixel Watch, and probably the Pixel tablet. So all of that stuff got officially revealed today. They announced their new Google Tensor G2 chip, which is, the second version of their Tensor chip, their Google-made chip. They showed the Pixel 7, Pixel 7 Pro, Pixel Watch, and they talked a little bit about the Pixel tablet. Now, Pixel 7, nothing, I guess, too crazy to talk about here. It's a 6.3-inch screen, 1080p, display up to 90 hertz, pretty much the exact same as the Pixel 6. They have a larger front sensor for selfies on the front, and it's the same sensor as the 7 Pro. So they've kind of bumped up the front sensor for both of them. One interesting feature, I would say, is they have now brought face recognition and face unlock to their Pixel devices, to the 7 and the 7 Pro. They still have the under-display fingerprint sensor for people who are fans of it. I guess, I don't know, I think not too many people were, but now you have face unlock and you have a fingerprint sensor. They've also, thanks to the new G2 chip, they've added a few new Pixel features. They have something called guided frame, which will help assist those who are visually impaired to take better selfies. They have photo unblur, which will take old photos, so from old cameras, old phone cameras that were blurry, and will use Google's AI and image processing to unblur the images and make them better photos. They have better video stabilization. They have cinematic blur that they've brought, so it's sort of like cinematic mode from iPhones. They've brought it to Pixel devices. They've re-engineered their super res zoom. And when it comes to pricing, the Pixel 7 is still $599, which we think we both predicted. The Pixel 7 Pro stays at $899, which I think we were both expecting or hoping for at least a bit of a price decrease there. The Pixel Watch, exactly the same as they showed off before. It seems like a big part of this conference or a big part of this event in introducing the watch was saying how much of a Fitbit device this was. Now, it's the first Wear OS device that they've released with Fitbit. It's a Wear OS. It's a Google device, so it does all kinds of software integration with your Google Home, for instance. You can control lights, you can control your thermostat, all from your watch. But it's also a Fitbit, and it has what they say is Fitbit's most accurate heart rate tracking yet. So, if you have Fitbit Premium, it has stuff like daily readiness scores, you have sleep tracking, you have, heart rate zone tracking, all of that stuff. That is going to start at $349. And then they showed the Pixel tablet. So was it their Google I/O event? They had a little teaser of it. They didn't really say much behind it. They just showed what the tablet was going to look like. Now, I think the big thing when they first showed it off was people were complaining about the bezels and, how large they were and how much they stood out. Now, it still has bezels. But one thing that I noticed is when they first showed it today, it had white bezels. So the bezels really stood out on the sides. And then they had another version that had black bezels, and it didn't look as jarring, I would say, as the white bezels. I think the contrast between white and the screen really makes them stand out. And when you look at, other Android tablets, when you look at Apple tablets, they all have bezels. You kind of need them on a tablet to make it easier to hold.
Yeah.
But I think just that contrast makes them look that much bigger than they are. What was interesting with the Pixel tablet was they had a dock for it. So it's a charging station / speaker dock where you attach a tablet magnetically to it, and it essentially turns into, a Google Home device, like a Nest Hub. And I thought that was a pretty cool accessory, pretty convenient accessory. And when people first saw this tablet back at Google I/O, everyone was like, "Oh, that looks like it's a Nest Hub." like essentially, and that's pretty much what it is,
Hmm.
right? It's a Nest Hub that you can use to control everything at home, use to control your smart home, use Google Assistant, all that stuff. But then you can also just take it off of the stand and take it on the road with you, which I don't know. I think that is an amazing use case, and I think that more tablet manufacturers should do something like that. Now, not as many people have the ecosystem, the smart home ecosystem that Google has, but I don't know. I think the tablet, I would have to say, is the thing that I'm most excited for from this event. I mean, the Pixel Watch looks great, the phones look great, but I'm not in the market for those. I'm not necessarily in the market for a tablet either,
Yeah.
but I'd say out of all of the things, the tablet and that whole docking station, speaker, charging station, that was the most exciting thing that I saw from Google, the most unlike its competitors. But, what are your thoughts on the whole Pixel event, on the phones, on the watch, on the tablet? What are you excited for? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. I think the tablet was the most interesting thing that we saw. And yeah, there is no price or detailed specs on it yet. It isn't coming until 2023. But just that little addition of having the charging station that it magnetically attaches to and gives it speakers and all that stuff is a great idea. Uh, for a lot of reasons. One, I mean, when they talked about the tablet and they showed it, I was one of those people who's like, yeah, that's exactly how I use my tablet. My tablet is always beside my bed, sitting on top of a speaker with it usually just plugged in so I can play music whenever I want. And, has a charging cable right next to it in case I need to plug it in. This is a much more convenient model. And on top of that, there are so many people who have smaller living spaces. And I've known so many people who have, don't necessarily watch a lot of stuff like I'm going to watch a new Disney Plus show or something like that. Not necessarily on a big TV. Usually they'll do it on a phone or a tablet, just because of a lack of space. And having something that you can just dock somewhere and essentially be kind of like a smart TV, with an actual dedicated speaker attached to it. Who knows if the speaker is any good, but let's assume that it is a decent speaker. You can get some good, TV viewing kind of experience out of the Pixel tablet, but then also completely detach it and use it as a regular tablet as well. And then also it means that it can go in a bunch of areas. Like you can have one of these in the kitchen, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a really cool idea. How well they execute, I guess we'll have to wait and see. And whether or not that docking station comes with the tablet or is an extra purchase, I think will be a huge aspect on whether or not it's all that successful. Because that kind of reminds me of the Surface tablets. The Surface tablets, some of my favorite tablets ever made, but they don't make a good value proposition because they don't come with the keyboard. And you have to buy that separately. And once you start adding all those accessories in, like the keyboard and like the pen, which also this tablet, they did mention that it's going to have stylus support, although they
Yeah.
didn't really show that, but they did mention it. So, if they're trying to build an ecosystem of accessories, it sounds like it could potentially be a very expensive device, which I feel like was one of the bigger downsides of this event. Is overall, I actually really liked the event. I thought it was good. I thought it was a lot more natural and human than what you would see from like Apple. Not a lot of fancy music and transitions. It's just like a person in front of a slideshow talking about the products. There's mistakes, there's you know
I think
there's
someone
some,
dropped a phone during it.
yeah, some coughing, some so but it feels very human, and I kind of like that. It felt more natural. But one thing that was really clear in this event is that Google wants premium devices, and even though the Pixel 7 non-Pro is still $599, the Pro version is still $899, and the watches really surprised me in price, honestly, because it starts at $349 for the non LTE version and $399 for the LTE version. I kind of like the fact that the LTE version is only $50 more. But one thing that they showed with this watch, like you mentioned, it's a Fitbit made by Pixel, and at least that's the kind of narrative that they seem to be talking about. But outside of the heart rate sensor, there didn't seem to be a lot of, you know, metrics that you would necessarily see from like an Apple Watch or a Samsung Watch. Usually with those watches, you see all these different things like a body composition sensor and all these cool things that it can do. And this it seemed kind of basic compared to those. And that's just the way they talked about it. I don't know. Maybe it with this super advanced heart rate sensor, it can do a lot more than what we would typically expect from a heart rate sensor. But overall, it seemed a lot more basic than what you would expect from an Apple or Samsung watch. And also, they only mentioned up to 24 hours of battery life. So, and I think that is with the constant heart rate sensing, like the nonstop heart rate sensing, which I guess if you turn that feature off, if you can, potentially you could get more battery life. But overall, it just didn't seem like it was worth the price to me. And I still feel the same way about the Pixel 7 Pro. And I wouldn't be surprised if the tablet is similar to that, especially if they want to charge you all a bunch for all those extra add-ons. But overall, I like the event. The watch is cool. I like the design. I like the fact that they do have different watch bands, even ones that have lugs. I don't know if it's going to be permanently attached to that watch band, so you can't like change out watch bands on your own or whatnot. But I do like the mechanism in which the watch bands attach. I think the watch is overall a cool designed product, and the more I see it, the less the bezels on the watch bother me. I just kind of like the design, but price and functionality isn't for me. I don't need a Fitbit. But yeah, so overall, I think the event was cool. I think Google showed off some really cool products and some really interesting software. I mean, you mentioned it in the last podcast. They're going to focus on software, and they absolutely did. The vast majority of that software was reiterating stuff that already existed on Pixel. Um, the one thing that I will say is really kind of impressive if it lives up to their their marketing and would, I think, make the Pixel 7 Pro actually worth it if this is true, is there are different methods of zoom. The Pixel 7 Pro supports up to 30 times digital zoom, but what it does is it uses a combination of digital and optical zoom between the three cameras to combine images and gives you like a seamless, hopefully sharp image all the way through from 1x to 30x. And, they showed some examples. Obviously, it's a presentation. They're only going to show a decent example.
Yeah.
But if they can pull that off, I think that could be a really cool kind of revolutionary thing that the Pixel does to make it, that great camera that it's always been known as. And potentially even make it so that paying that extra $300 for the Pixel 7 Pro might I'm going to say might be worth it. But yeah, it's still hard to kind of tell at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I still don't think there's enough, like, I mean, 30x zoom is great, but I don't think that's enough to warrant the $300 difference,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially if you look at all the other software stuff, they'll be able to do the same software stuff, right? I mentioned it's the stabilization in video, the cinematic blur, the editing photos from older cameras or older phones. The regular Pixel 7 will be able to do that.
Yeah.
So really that $300 is for that extra zoom and that extra camera that you'll be able to get. Now, once reviewers get their hands on these and they'll compare the devices, we'll see how much of a difference that makes, but I'm pretty surprised that they didn't lower the price of the Pro.
Yeah.
Even like a $50 decrease, I'm surprised they didn't do. But the 7 still looks like a good device. I think last year we like the Pixel 6s better than the 6 Pros. I'm gonna go ahead and say that we'll probably like the Pixel 7. We'll probably recommend the Pixel 7 more than
Mm-hmm.
the 7 Pro, just because of that big price difference. I'm interested to see how their face unlock works too. They don't have a dynamic and an island no dynamic island or anything fancy like that. For the Pixel Watch, one interesting thing for the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro on their North American websites, so for on the Canadian and the United States one, if you buy a Pixel 7 phone, you get $200 in Google Store credit. So the watch, $349 American, so it would only be $149 if you want to get the watch. or the Pixel Buds Pro are $200. So if you get a phone, you get the Pixel Buds Pro for free. What's interesting is on the Canadian site, you still only get $200, even though their phones are like $400 more expensive.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you could somehow buy your phone American if you live in Canada and just, I don't know, get someone to ship it up to you, definitely go that route
Yeah.
because you get more for your money as always. Um, the Pixel Watch. So on the Google website, when you go to their watches, what's interesting is they have just a bunch of Fitbits,
Yeah.
and then they have the Google Pixel Watch, and 349. I mean, it's not on the cheap side of watches, but when you compare it to Fitbits, right, the best Fitbit, quote unquote best Fitbit is the Fitbit Sense 2, 299.95. So the Pixel Watch is only $50 more, right? And that gives you Wear OS and it gives you all the Google, the smart home features, the Google Assistant features, Google Map, turn by turn navigation. So if you compare it, if you look at someone who's in the market for a Fitbit, as you said, you're not in the market for a Fitbit. But if you look at someone who's in the market for a Fitbit, $50 more doesn't seem that drastic if you look at all of the Google features that you get with it, because you don't get that with a regular Fitbit. Also, the design is better too. Like the rounded design, it looks more like a classical watch. The other Fitbits, they're boxier and not as nice of a box, I guess, as the Apple Watches would be.
Yeah.
So if you compare it to other Pixel, or if you compare the Pixel Watch to other Fitbit devices, it's a pretty good deal. But if you're someone who isn't in the market for a Fitbit, then maybe it's not for you. But I think the watch will do well. I'll be interested to see how well it sells and to see people's reviews of it also. And yeah, when it comes to the tablet, like it doesn't have we don't have a price yet. I don't think they'll give you the dock with it, or it'll be like the same sort of situation that we have now, where if you buy the tablet in like the first week of sales or first 30 days of sales, you'll get $150 gift card, and the stand just so happens to cost $150.
Mm.
I think they'll do something like that to encourage people to buy it. But the stylus, when they mention stylus support, I'm interested to see how that works. Because are they going to come out with their own, Pixel Pen or Pixel Pencil or whatever they want to call it? And how is that going to compare to the S Pen from Samsung, to the Apple Pencil from Apple? But yeah, I'm interested to see what kind of stylus support they have. Will there be Wacom Pen support on this Pixel tablet? Is that one way they kind of get into the creative demographic in terms of their marketing? One more thing, the camera for this is in the center for landscape mode.
Mm.
So Apple tablets, for whatever reason, still have their camera set up like everyone's going to be holding their tablet in portrait mode, but no one does. No one ever does anymore. Everyone's holding it landscape mode. I don't know what they're waiting for. Hopefully, now that they've seen Pixel do this or Google do this, Samsung's done it. Hopefully, they'll follow suit for their next iPad Pros. But yeah,
I mean, I think the giving the cash when you buy the phone to get money off of an accessory like the watch is great. And yeah, when compared to a Fitbit, the price isn't too bad when you're getting all those extra features. The one thing I will say is that it's around the same price as a Galaxy Watch 5 Pro and about $100 more than the base Galaxy Watch 5. And I think that's where it kind of gets a little weird for me because, at least from what they originally said, these watches were going to get the Fitbit integration first. But there was the kind of idea that this Fitbit integration would also come to the Samsung watches at some point. And based on the features of the Samsung watch, even the non-Pro, the just Galaxy Watch 5, it seems like it can do a lot more fitness tracking or has a lot more sensors for fitness tracking than just this Pixel Watch. So I don't know. It kind of makes it tough for me to think that this is going to be worth $100 more than that. But I mean, we'll wait and see. And then also the fact that you can just get the LTE for just a bit more, I think might help it a bit in the future. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, the one thing I will also say is with the tablet and the pen support, I don't know how successful this tablet will be. I don't know how successful any of these Pixel products will be. You know, Google struggled a bit with the Pixel line. But the one thing I will say is maybe this gives them the opportunity, kind of like how we talked about in the last podcast, where Samsung likes to put features in certain devices to test out the waters. Maybe this could be a situation where pen support on the tablet could be the first iteration of maybe the Pixel 8 Pro getting pen support on the phone. And that's something I would like to see, because if they want to stick with this $599, $899 price gap, having something like pen support on the Pro device or stylus support on the Pro device, I think would go a long way into making people feel like, oh, okay, it's actually a little bit more worth it than the original Pixel 6 Pro and 7 Pro.
Yeah, that would be something pretty cool to see. I wasn't even thinking that, to be honest, but I guess it depends on how successful the tablet is too, and how many people actually use the stylus for the tablet.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I was just gonna say quickly. That's the one thing I think is kind of tough with Google, is not just whether or not something's going to be successful, but how long Google decides to stick with something. And we know that Google likes to cancel stuff all the time. Who knows? This could be the one and only tablet they ever make. They made a tablet back in the day, the Nexus 9, and then completely, dropped that and never made it again. The
no, I think
Chromebook
there was a
Pixel.
7. They started with the 7.
Yeah, the 9 was the last one they made. It was supposed to be like this big flagship, super expensive device, whereas the previous Nexus tablets were cheaper. And then they dropped it. The Chromebook Pixel was their flagship Chromebook device that they never really supported and stopped making after a short time. And now Stadia is canceled and is going to be done in early 2023. Do you have any confidence in the Pixel line personally? Do you think that this is something that's going to exist in the next 5 years? And do you have any opinions on them canceling Stadia? Do you think it was the right move? Have you heard of anyone who's used Stadia in the past?
I think the phone line will definitely last.
Mm.
I think especially with this rebranding, at the start of the event, they said the Pixel 6 line, including the 6, 6 Pro, 6A, their best-selling Pixel devices ever. I
Yeah.
mean, I think them going for this, premium phone, switching from more of a budget phone to a premium phone, and they spent a lot of money on commercials. There's like this phone was everywhere. So I think the phones will last. I think the earbuds will last too. The watch, I'm not 100% sold on yet. I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
still haven't come out with the first one yet. They're coming out with it next week, but I think for sure I think for sure the phones, the earbuds will stay. The other ones I'm not sold on.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we get a couple watches, maybe we get a couple tablets. But yeah, Google cancels stuff all the time. I'm not surprised that they cancel Stadia. I don't know anyone that used Stadia. I don't think so. I completely forgot about it, to be honest. When I heard it was canceled, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot they had a cloud streaming service.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think the writing was on the wall for quite some time that Stadia wasn't doing too hot or wasn't too successfully. And if you're a spin-off project at Google, there is always a chance that you will get canceled or you will get swallowed up and added to another department of theirs.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I guess it was the right thing to do. Maybe not for the developers that were designing games for it and were kind of betting on Stadia being around, but yeah, I think Pixel phone, Pixel earbuds, everything else, I'm not too sure.
Can get canceled any day.
It could, but if I had to choose one thing, I I kind of hope the tablet lasts just because I like tablets.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I like the idea that this is one device that will power your smart home and you can take it on the road with you and, do work on the road with it too. I'd be interested to see if they come out down the line, probably not with the first iteration. They come out with some sort of, like some keyboard case for it too, so you can get more productivity out of it. I like the idea of a future where it's all right, I have one device and this is my tablet, this is my laptop, this is my computer, this is my entertainment system. I like that idea. I think this Pixel device is kind of working towards that.
Hmm.
But we also, we look at Apple. They don't want to sell you one device that can do everything. They want to sell you a bunch of devices that do different stuff. So you can't completely replace everything with one device. And you got to buy. Okay, I got to buy my phone for this, and I have to have a watch or a tablet for this. Then I have to have a computer for this, and then I need a laptop for this other thing. So
Yeah.
yeah. Would be nice to have one device to rule them all.
Yeah.
If you had to get one device from this event, which device would you go with?
Probably the watch. Um,
Yeah.
I really do like the design. It's as much as I'm really annoyed by the lack of standard watch bands. I just kind of like it. It seems very minimalist, and I really want a new watch. It's just no one is making one that fits me right now. So yeah, it would probably be that. Although the price is insane to me,
Mhm.
but but I don't know. And the Pixel 7 is also kind of cool. I really like the design, but I don't really need a phone right now. How about you? Which one stands out for you?
Um, I might have to agree with you. I might say the watch first.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'll say the watch first. I've always liked Fitbit devices. I like their sleep tracking. I like their activity tracking. Um, and I guess the good thing about uh Pixel Watch or a Fitbit compared to an Apple Watch is you can get this, you can use it with Android, you can use it with Apple devices.
Yes,
For
yeah,
an Apple Watch, you need to have an iPhone to use it, which is, I mean, for their business, it's great for the bottom line. But for the consumer, it's kind of like you're building a walled garden there. So I'd say probably the watch, probably the Pixel 7, and then the tablet is what I'd be interested in. But
and
yeah,
I was just gonna say, shout out to Apple. Make the watch work with the tablet, the iPad. There's no reason why it shouldn't. You should
yeah,
have to have a phone. Make it work with the iPad.
but that's part of their lock-in, right? You get the watch, you need a phone for the watch to work.
Yeah,
Even if you have an Apple tablet with LTE, you still need a phone in order to set up and run your watch. It's kind of stupid. All right, on to our second topic of the day. Elon Musk seems to have made up his mind about the whole Twitter deal. Now, I think we talked last episode about how Elon was flip flopping on whether or not he wanted to buy Twitter. His attorneys apparently wrote a letter this past Monday saying that he wanted to go forward with their original agreed upon price of $54.20 per share. Now, he still needs to line up the necessary debt financing, and he also needs to make sure that the people he was getting to co-invest with him are still on board to help him out and help him buy Twitter. But for the moment, it means the court case is on hold. And I think it was set to start, in the next few days or maybe the next week. But at the moment, the court case is on hold. It seems like they're going to follow through with the original deal that they made. Now, it seems like Musk and his legal team, they were kind of getting the sense that the case wasn't going too well because all of the preliminary pretrial rulings, the judge seemed to be siding with Twitter on. And it's, I guess, another part of this too is on Monday, Elon also tweeted out that he sees buying Twitter as an acceleration to him creating the X company. So he wants to develop an app that's sort of like WeChat, that's sort of like TikTok. He wants a one stop shop app where you can buy things, you can create videos, you can send messages, where you pretty much live your life on this app. So it seems like that's what he's working to develop. That's his master plan for Twitter. So I guess he's finally seen the daylight. He's finally agreed that okay, enough dragging on with all this unnecessary stuff. I said I was gonna buy the company. I'm gonna buy the company and create this X everything app. But what are your thoughts on Elon finally agreeing to buy it? What are your thoughts on him wanting to create this super app? Do you think it's actually going to go through? I know in the past you said that, whenever Elon agreed to buy Twitter, you didn't think it was going to happen. Now he's saying it's going to happen. Do you think it's actually going to go through? Is this another, legal ploys. This another ruse of Elon just trying to drum up some more media attention for himself.
Honestly, I have no idea. That's the thing. It's like anything goes with Musk and his plans for a couple of reasons. One, because he kind of has the money to make anything go, but two, very unpredictable. So, you know, there's the idea that, okay, we even talked about it on the podcast in the past. This kind of trial is proceeding in Delaware, where the judge, I believe her name is Kathleen McCormick, who has presided over cases like this in the past and sided with the company that was to be purchased. And there was talk that Elon Musk wanted the trial moved out of Delaware for his side. And now this idea that maybe his lawyers are like, hey, you know what, this probably won't go our way based on the evidence and kind of the events that took place for you to buy this company. Maybe it doesn't make sense to spend all the money it would take to take Twitter to court, and instead just go through with the purchase, because probably you'll have to do it anyways and lose a bunch of money in the court proceedings. So yeah, maybe that is the case. Maybe it's just like, hey, you know what? I don't want to lose any more money on this. Let me just go with the agreed upon price, and don't have to worry about the potential of paying all my legal fees, and also the potential of having to reimburse shareholders for any lost value. So yeah, that could be the case. But then it could also just be a ploy to be like, you know what? He wanted it out of Delaware to begin with. Saying and agreeing to pay for Twitter at the agreed upon price delays that trial and potentially gives them more time to either get more evidence or even file in a different area. That's a possibility with Musk. I can't say that it's not, but right now I'll take it for face value and hope that, yeah, this is an end to this unnecessary drama with the Twitter and Elon saga. And if he wants to do something interesting with it, I with this X whatever, go right ahead. I'm not a user of Twitter per se, but I know there's a lot of people who love it and also love the products that Musk brings to the table. So I could imagine that if there is an idea either by him or a bunch of people that he works with, or a combination of both of those, to do something cool with Twitter and combine it with, an overall kind of one-stop shop for the internet. Yeah, maybe that's a great investment for him, and probably turn that around and make Twitter and the whole platform of X or whatever it is even more profitable than the 54.20 per share, the $44 billion that is currently valued at, and then turn around and sell it, kind of like he did with PayPal. So
Yeah.
there's definitely a lot of options on the table. I mean, must be nice to be a billionaire, but yeah, right now I'll take it for face value. Hopefully that this is the end of all of this, and we don't have to hear about the Twitter v Elon saga anymore. But how about you? Do you think this is finally the end to the story?
No, I don't think so. I think, like you said, he's just stalling. He's trying to prolong the case because while he said that he wants to go through with the deal, the court case is on hold. It's not proceeding. He's buying himself time. So he could, I mean, I'm sure there's some sort of deadline, but he could, let's say, take a month to work out the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then a month from now, he's like, you know what? I decided I don't want to buy Twitter actually. And then we're right back where we started, but he's bought himself and his legal team an extra month,
Yeah.
right? Just what? Last week, we had a whistleblower come out that said, Twitter's CEO was negligent. They had all kinds of security flaws that I pointed out, and they fired me about it. Maybe if he stalls for another month, another whistleblower comes out that says, "Oh, actually, the bot problem is a lot worse than everyone says, and here's the facts, here's a proof to back it up." So I think he's just stalling. I don't think we've seen the end of Twitter v. Elon. Another interesting, I guess, way to look at this, right, is I think he has reversed 3 times as to, okay, he's in the deal, now he's out of the deal, now he's back in the deal, and he's out. He's gone back and forth, and he's had lenders, he's had co-investors, people that agreed to invest with them. Whether it be individuals or whether it be investment funds. When he originally set up this deal, he had people saying, we are going to dedicate X amount of money to Elon Musk. And then he backed out of the deal, and now they've taken their money out. Maybe they've reallocated it to other things. And now he's saying he's back in the deal, and it's like, well, the people you originally had, backing you for this deal, lending you money for this deal, maybe they don't have the money anymore. Maybe they do have the money and they don't trust you to go through with this deal anymore. So even if it's maybe Elon deep down wants this to go through, but he isn't able to get the money or isn't able to finance it, at least, quickly, maybe that's why it drags on longer too. So yeah, I think I really don't have an answer for this, right? I don't know. He should go through with the deal. He should buy the company for his agreed upon price. But will he be able to? Does he even actually want to? I don't know. I don't think so. So yeah, the saga continues. It might be even longer than the whole Epic Games versus Apple saga that we did
Oh
in
yeah.
our first year of the podcast. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to wait and see, just like everyone else. But my money is it doesn't get closed by the end of October. Yeah, that's what I'd bet on.
I mean, I have no idea how these things work, but it makes me wonder. Well, what happens if he can't secure the funding? Does that just make the deal null and the court proceedings don't even have to proceed because now the funding that should have been there doesn't exist? Is there a countersue of like, oh, okay, he delayed, and now the funding doesn't exist, so now there has to be some kind of consequence? Is that consequence lesser than what he would have had to do if he went through with this court proceeding to begin with? Like, that's an interesting thing because I remember when the deal was originally announced, there was something like a $1 billion penalty if the deal didn't go through. And I think that could have been tied, I don't know, but I think that could have been tied to whether or not he secured the funding. So maybe agreeing to buy it and then saying, pending getting the funding from my partners, and then that not happening, maybe that instead of the whole court proceedings and potentially have to pay billions of dollars, maybe he just pays that $1 billion fee or, penalty. And then he's done with it, wipes his hand clean and doesn't have to continue anymore. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. Elon's playing 3D chess right now. So
Yeah.
who knows?
And then turns around and right now this whole story is advertisement for this whole X platform.
Yeah.
And maybe if that does happen, then he can just make his own Twitter competitor with this, X platform, and get some free marketing for it. So yeah, if that is what happens, I don't know. Who knows if that's even possible? If it happens, that's quite the 3D chess checkmate right there. So yeah, I just wanted to give a quick update on the Steam Deck impressions and review so far. So a couple of things that I said in the last podcast I would try. One was emulation, and happy to report emulation works great on the Steam Deck. I've tested from Game Boy Advance, DS, 3DS, GameCube, Wii, and probably some other console in there, maybe a PS2 or something. I don't know. But one thing I will say is it emulates games a lot better than I would have expected. There is a piece of software called EmuDeck, which kind of sets everything up for you. You just kind of need to get your games and your files set up. And it's for all the tinkering that I've done on the Steam Deck, I've done no tinkering when it comes to the emulation, and things work pretty well. I haven't really used any device that could emulate GameCube or Wii games, so this is the first I've used, especially a portable device, and it works surprisingly well. There are hitches here and there where like it will freeze for like a split second, and the games that I've tried aren't like the most heavy games. Like I've tried Tatsunoko vs. Capcom on the Wii, and games like Bloody Roar, Primal Fury on the GameCube and stuff like that. But overall, they work great and they look great, and I'm kind of really surprised and amazed by how well this stuff works. And The other thing I said I would try was using the Steam Deck as a PC replacement. And this is a little bit of a downside to the emulation. It didn't go as smoothly as the emulation. So I did install Windows on an SD card, so not on the internal storage, which is a key thing, because if you do install Windows on an internal storage, you then have to reinstall SteamOS either in a partition or just completely use Windows, which is not a good thing, because SteamOS is just much better for games than Windows. But then also, I tried to do things like install DaVinci Resolve, which I haven't seen anyone try to do on the Steam Deck yet. And as of right now, it does not work. Because, at least from what I can tell, and I'm no expert, but because this is using a custom APU from AMD, similar to the kind of custom APU that you would get on like a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series console, it doesn't have general drivers for a typical CPU and GPU that you would get when you're building a desktop or getting a laptop. It's not like a mainstream part. So right now, DaVinci Resolve cannot recognize, and Windows in general has a difficult trouble recognizing the GPU, and it won't even launch DaVinci Resolve because it has no idea what kind of GPU it is. And I've noticed this, APU, we've talked about this with Apple products, means that you're sharing RAM between the system memory and the video memory. So the system RAM and VRAM is shared. And one thing I've noticed is even in some games where it will show you how much of your VRAM you're using up, in Windows, it shows that there's 0 gigabytes of VRAM. So yeah, Windows definitely, even with official drivers from Valve and AMD, Windows definitely struggles with identifying what GPU is in the Steam Deck, and it causes a bit of limitations. And then there's also the limitation of installing Windows on an SD card. There is very real storage limitations in terms of bandwidth. Storage can be very slow and get slowed down very quickly if there's anything running in the background. And yeah, so using this as a PC replacement, at least for right now, complete no-go. And it kind of reevaluated, like I've said in the past, this device for me. It's definitely not what I thought it would be. I expected it to be this amazing PC replacement, something that would replace my PC and my Switch. That was probably a bit too optimistic. But what that did do for me, though, is finally see what this product really is. And honestly, as a console, and I've said this in the past, I thought this was a PC, not a console. But when I look at it as a console, it's fantastic. It's a great console. It's a great portable console because it plays all the latest games, and you can take it with you. So it's like a Switch that can do so much more. But when you try to use it as like a PC replacement, there's a lot of issues there that kind of prevent you. So yeah, I guess my final recommendation is this is a great companion device. It's not going to replace your gaming PC. It's not going to replace your Switch. But if you wanted something that's more powerful than the Switch, it's a great device. If you're heavily invested in the Steam ecosystem, or you intend to only buy games from Steam, it's a fantastic device. But if you thought it could, replace all of your devices in one, it's not that. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just, the setting the expectation of what it is. And for me, if I got the chance to use it or get this information before I bought it, I honestly probably would have passed on it.
Really?
Yeah, and it's not because I think it's bad. I think it's fantastic, but I would have rather invested that money personally into upgrading my PC, which is older. So yeah, it's not a replacement device for anything. It's not going to replace your Switch. It's not going to replace your PC, but it's a great companion device to play your Steam games on the go. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely cool. Take it easy, everyone in podcast land.
Catch you in the next episode.